Hello, good morning, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Ilana Rennert. I manage outbound marketing here at SanDisk, and very excited to be joined by our partner Nexenta today to talk about all-flash, all software-defined storage for all-the-time performance for your workloads. And we're joined today by Steve Wilkins, our solutions marketing at SanDisk, as well as Mike Letchin, field CTO from Nexenta. We will have time at the end of the presentation for live question and answers, so please feel free to submit your questions anytime, and we'll get to those at the end. But without further ado, I will hand it over to Steve for his formal introduction.
Good morning. This is Steve Wilkins from Enterprise Solutions at SanDisk, and thanks very much for being here. Just as a point of order, of course, I do have to include our forward-looking statements. So this is the legal notice that says essentially that what we say today may include things that look to the future, but we can change those at any time. So while that's on the screen, over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Steve. So I'm Mike Letchin. I am the field CTO with Nexenta. So I get my hands on both some of the user stuff as well as back on the product side and customers. So it's great to be sitting here with SanDisk, who we're doing so much work with over a recent time frame right now. So
that's great, Mike. So to start off, perhaps you could tell me a little bit about Nexenta.
Sure. Let me jump right into that. I mean, we are definitely the inventor and probably the global leader in software-defined storage, as you hear. I mean, you hear about buzzwords of SDS or an SD blank all the time, but we've been working with it since 2008, based out of California with about a little more than 200 employees at this point. With that, giving us the ability to really do enterprise-scale software-defined storage with deployments all over the world, covering more than 1.5 exabytes of capacity within that SDS market, really reaching out between partners around the globe with different partners for things like what we work with SanDisk on, as well as resellers and a lot of the major server vendors to be able to provide the hardware needed in the data center as well. All of that really is based on what we see as an open source driven process while still giving that extra functionality and wrapping around things that we have developed for a nice patent portfolio and different solutions that we have around that software-defined space. So really we are solely focused on that software space for storage within the enterprise.
That's great. So, I mean, it's an ever-changing market. How do you see that software-defined storage market actually changing?
Well, I mean, for sure, we've definitely seen the shift as even I say look at ourselves as the inventor on that space. Really, you see a change in the way that storage has been changing just historically right now. We are making huge jumps. You look at some of the research that's coming out. 451 looked at just unstructured data growth, and with 40% growth, just in places like backup and archive or traditional server virtualization. A lot of people look at the market and say, well, people have been using VMware now for a while, but there's still a huge growth in it for the user data associated with it, the extra virtualization space in it. But it's not just around the software side on that. I mean, we are seeing that data grow, but it's still driven by what the hardware can do. And people are looking at a difference between their operational cost and how much they have to outlay on hardware. Traditionally, on the non-software defined space, that traditional storage market with the monolith storage, it was a lot of CapEx. You'd come in and you had to put a big chunk of money down on a big array and hope you were planning right as your enterprise from today through the next 3 to 5 years, depending on it. Being able to move into a software space drives that more into the OpEx. So now you can buy what you need today as you need it. And that really has an impact on some specific markets. As we see growth in cloud storage, in different hyperconverged things, specifically in that mid-range SAN space, and then as we're going to talk about as we get into this, in that all-flash market, there's a huge growth in what's happening with the spend for today's enterprise and how they're looking at growing. They're going to want to spend more money on these top few things, on what they're doing for cloud storage, on how all-flash is impacting it. And you can't do that at the capital expenditures of the past. You have to be able to drive in with a software solution that's combined with the right hardware at the right time. And that's really how we're seeing that market develop to drive more of a software key and a software function for more OpEx usage and less on the CapEx side than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I can see that. So what makes Nexenta stand out in what's a pretty crowded market?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at, you could probably find every major trade show today. I think you'll see 20, 30 different storage companies that are saying they're software defined. For one thing, we really look at it and say that we want to make sure that there is no lock-in on the data, on the hardware, building out with the known platforms, allowing customers to choose their hardware platform, utilizing the protocols that they want, whether it's block, file, or object. And we have an ecosystem around all of those. We have a product set and a portfolio around all three of those protocols for whatever fits in the enterprise today. But with that, we don't want to forget the enterprise feature set that's really needed: data protection, data reliability, integrity on things, making sure, especially in the archive space, that you're getting the data integrity they need, but also having things like snapshots and compression and things that matter in the enterprise today. But it has to work with the solutions you're looking at. So in a VMware space, Microsoft, whoever that latest tie-in from the enterprise space needs to work as well. So combining that no vendor lock-in with the use of a large ecosystem is really how we set ourselves apart. With that, we want to provide a full-featured product set. Today, really, we're going to get into some of the unified file and block capabilities we have with our NexentaStor solution. When we look at that, we're going to utilize things like the latest on network access. So if you're looking at 10 gig for NFS or for Windows systems with SMB, or you want to have 16 gig fiber channel, we offer that whole enterprise class capability around the NexentaStor solution, providing things like that data reduction that I mentioned, things like RAID protection at levels, especially with larger drives, with the ability, things like having 8 terabyte drives and 8 terabyte modules that you're using. Those take time to rebuild no matter how you're doing it. So we want to make sure you've got the reliability there and the protection on it. Adding in that things like snapshots and clones really drive the way that you're able to take a software solution, tying it into traditional hardware from those major vendors, and then getting the performance you need even more with the addition of things like the SanDisk that we're going to dig into.
That's great. So can you characterize some of the key benefits of NexentaStor?
Sure. I mean, no matter whether you're looking at things from that backup and archive space or the virtual servers we talked about, even into enterprise applications, really we've got a full portfolio around NexentaStor to give a solution that's needed. Things like compression for the full file system, snapshots and clones, and integration with the VMwares and things like that, integration to be able to utilize and certifications around Veeam and Commvault, the different product set that's already there. But all that integration still has to come with the freedom to have a single place to manage it and choose the hardware that works for your environment. So as we're building out and we have reference architectures around some of the other solutions, all those major server vendors, you get a single stack no matter which one you choose, allowing them to compete. With that, it's not just about price. It's about scale. It's about performance. So solutions that will scale upwards of 4, 5, almost 6 petabytes in a single array, giving you a large file system size, or whether you need it that it's all about high performance, we can do it on that side as well. So starting down in the much smaller ranges, but still getting into the 1-2 petabytes of all flash that we'll talk about in a few, that solution is there, and it's all driven with the same interface and the same NexentaStor look and feel across the platforms. That whole thing driving down the cost. And that's really where a lot of it comes into. While we saw that growth when I was talking about the storage market, the budgets are not going at the same space. So being able to have a lower acquisition cost and keep that in play with the perpetual license that we offer allows that price point to be much lower right away for the users getting into it.
That's great. I mean, it's a great set of benefits, and I'm sure for for the folks listening today, a lot of them might be thinking about how do I do the migration? How easy is the installation? What's the typical environment look like? Can you comment on that?
Oh yeah, I mean we see everything from I think with a lot of storage vendors, there's some players that are very, very niche. They only want to deal with that top 1% of your data, or they're only looking at being for your real cold archive stuff. Really what this is that solution that can run the gamut of your needs across the enterprise. So coming in often in that backup and archival space, often moving very quickly into that tier 1, tier 2 space of what's my production system running on. It gives them, as soon as they realize that it's got that reliability and the performance, it is a shift for people to think, I need to go from buying this monolith array into, I'm going to buy the software and the right hardware behind it, and I'm going to be able to do it the way I want to do it. So they need to get comfortable with it, having that full set of features on it. So often it will be a deployment possibly into their test dev or into their archive, and then driving right into the primary storage space. That's really where we see a lot of people doing it. We are seeing more and more today, though, that jump right into the high performance, and that they want that tier 1, tier 2. That's where they're really looking at the space need. And because we've been around a little bit longer, like I said, with us being one of the first players in the software-defined space, there is a comfort level already.
That's great, and so I know that a lot of your installations are hard drive based today. What are the benefits that your customers are seeing with flash installations?
Yeah, I think historically we have had a lot of them that started hard drive based, hence that backup and archive space. But as we've kind of grown into it and worked with the market, and one of the benefits of software is that ability to move very quickly and have more agility to get the latest thing in. We have users that have asked for the all-flash side of things, and they've needed to have that great throughput with a low latency point that we're looking at, putting a lot amount of storage and a lot less space, whether it's a service provider or an enterprise that's paying for their power and cooling. We need to be able to have those savings. And along with that, the ability to manage it right alongside those hard drive-based solutions. So being able to combine the two definitely has given us a lot of flexibility. So adding in both the flash side along with the spinning disk gives us a whole different flexibility for that end user. I know, and as we get into some of the kind of this flash side, Steve, I know obviously we're with SanDisk, there's a lot of people that look at SanDisk in a lot of different ways. So I know there's been the side that has been real kind of consumer side that a lot of people look at right away when they walk into the store, but there's a big data center business on it. Can you kind of dig into what people are saying a little bit about your data center side?
Yeah, sure. SanDisk has been around for the past 28 years or so, and definitely at the forefront of flash innovation. Vertically integrated all the way from the memory fab through design, manufacturing, all the way through to software solutions. Our patent portfolio is one of the richest in the industry. More than 5,000 patents, consistently named to top innovator lists. As you mentioned, in addition to the very significant retail presence, we supply OEMs in markets as diverse as consumer devices like phones, cameras, all the way through to enterprise systems. We also sell to the hyperscalers that power the internet, some of the largest household names, and of course selling directly to enterprise data centers, which is really what we're talking about today. And our data center products include SSDs, systems, software, that really accelerate a whole range of applications, and those applications are enabled to go in different directions simply because of the capabilities that we have. I mean, Flash really does change everything. You know, it's not only in the data center where the benefits of performance, power, improved cooling, reliability, all of those things are people understand pretty well now, but also because of that performance, we're really enabling a new generation of applications that really had never been thought possible.
I mean, you guys obviously have a lot sitting there in the data center, and obviously, like I said, Flash has had a huge impact on it from the hardware side by itself. So how does that all fit into the software-defined model that we're really looking at in today's market?
Sure. I mean, software-defined all-flash storage is our focus. You know, we do Flash. We think we're really good at it, and we have a number of software-defined partners. Nexenta as a leading one, that really understand the software-defined storage market. We're concentrating on the elements, the building blocks that go into that, but we definitely see software-defined all-flash storage as our future. It's really about disaggregating the storage and the compute so that they can scale independently. And when you do that, you really deliver on flexibility, and as you mentioned earlier, Mike, the cost benefits. I mean, tremendous cost benefits by separating out these things, not being tied into a certain vendor. If you look at the old model of monolithic storage, those proprietary operating systems, you know, it's inflexible, it's costly. You're locked into one storage vendor. And with our approach, it's kind of worth noting that although today we're going to be kind of focused on the server attached flash model with the InfiniFlash product, but it also applies to in-server flash, where we also have a range of products from PCIe cards to SSDs that also play in this market.
Yeah, I know we've worked with the SSDs for quite a while, and on this one, we're really curious that InfiniFlash is the one that really jumps out, I think, at a lot of people that there's a lot of interest in. So what's the benefit of that? I mean, what can we get from the InfiniFlash? What's that new thing that we're looking at?
Sure. I think, you know, one of the things that to think about first is what are the challenges that people face? And, you know, when you and I go talk to people in data centers, there is never enough performance. We never have anybody tell us, oh, I've got enough performance, or my system's too fast. You know, my users say we deliver data to them too quickly. So we're always looking for more performance, and Flash, of course, leads with that. So IOPS and latency is the two major measures that we're looking for, and throughput, of course. So today that's solved with, you know, very large numbers of high performance hard drives, really over provisioning the number of drives so that you increase the number of spindles to get to that a reasonable IOPS number. And the next problem is capacity, of course. You know, keeping up with the data growth rate. Everybody's talking about more data I need to manage, more data I need to be able to analyze, be able to get to quickly in order to do the analysis and make it in time. Weather forecasting, you know, it's great if you can forecast weather, but if your processing takes 3 days and you want to look out 2 days, that's not so good. And those two issues of performance and data growth are really driving the third issue, which is data center costs. I mean, focused on power, cooling, rack space, reliability that you mentioned, and so of course, you know, our solution is NexentaStor on InfiniFlash, because we have the ability to excuse me, to deliver that all flash performance. And in terms of density, I mean, we squeeze 512 terabytes in a single 3U chassis at really, really low power. So, I mean, can you imagine that? Half a petabyte of flash storage in just 3U. I mean, to do that with...
Yeah, that was unheard of.
High performance hard drives, you're talking about multiple racks of drives to be able to do that at that kind of performance level, or not even close to that performance level. And of course, we have the reliability of flash, which, you know, stops that constant rebuild activity that's going on in the background in large-scale data centers, because, you know, when you've got thousands, tens of thousands of drives going, you're almost always in a rebuild. But the key to this for InfiniFlash is using a new packaging form factor to really unleash the power of flash.
I mean, with that being said, though, why not just, I mean, you mentioned that you guys have SSDs that you've done for a while. Why not just use SSDs that we're all used to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you got to think about when SSDs were introduced, everything was hard drive based, and so SSDs used the hard drive form factor because it was real easy to introduce them and minimize the impact to system manufacturers. They were already using hard drives, and so it was easy to get them to start implementing flash in the form of SSDs. However, in the packaging of those SSDs to make them look like disk drives, there's a lot of compromises that are made. We were actually able to start with a very clean sheet of paper. Really cool thing to be able to do. But of course, we weren't invested in hard drives, so we were able to do that. And the real innovation here is this 8 terabyte flash card. Being able to pack 64 of these cards in a 3U chassis allows us to have very, very efficient power and cooling, and in addition to the density. And of course, as we upgrade the capacity of the cards in the future, you know, as we go to higher capacities are always increasing. We've looked at the long-term usability of the box and made sure that the customers are going to be able to migrate to those higher capacities using the same box. So you've got long life and leading to even higher densities in the future.
I mean, that sounds awesome, because now you're able to get a whole lot more in that space, and it's definitely something different. But I think there's kind of that attitude that we've heard in the past, well, but when things are keeping that supply chain the same with the hard drive side of things, it kept costs down. So by changing now, isn't flash a lot more expensive than what we'll be looking at in a traditional hard drive-based system? I mean, that's why they tried to keep those costs down, supposedly.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, while the cost of flash has been coming down, and we're seeing lower costs. You know, that gap is compressing. There at a purchase level, there is still a considerable gap. However, with the InfiniFlash product, we were able to design out a lot of that additional cost. That's part of the innovation I was talking about with these flash cards. so that when you, with InfiniFlash, you can actually get to comparable pricing to on costs to hard drive systems. And in fact, this chart actually shows a comparison between InfiniFlash costs and 15,000 and 10,000 RPM drives over a 3-year cost. And so when you look at the total cost of ownership over a typical life cycle, and this is only 3 years, it only gets better after 5. The typical life cycle costs of ownership really seem to swing in favor of flash, and of course you get all of those additional benefits of performance, power, cooling, reliability. It all gets better. And now we have the final piece, which is the costs are comparable, and in fact better.
Oh, so that's a huge difference than what people have historically thought about. So I think in combination, that's one of the things that we've both as companies looked at was how do we have that joint solution to give a significant cost and performance advantage to the users. So from your standpoint, I know there's a lot of pieces of this. So how do we offer that performance advantage?
Right. The performance from Flash is pretty well understood, but being able to scale that performance, the density, when we combine InfiniFlash with NexentaStor, having Nexenta on a couple of 2U servers, being able to put 2 petabytes of high performance storage in just 16 rack units at really low power. These are pretty impressive numbers, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think being able to combine that with that enterprise class capabilities I was talking about with NexentaStor for both the reliability and the support across the board, but also just that feature set, the compression, the snaps and the clones, really having a unified front end. So whether it's file or block that people are putting out at not only the performance of it, but also at a cost point with that low power, that low cooling, and even being able to set up things like replication that I showed earlier gives a big difference. I know one of the things that came through was kind of how do we do that connection between the 2 sites that I showed earlier with the backup archive and then having a primary and a secondary. And a lot of times it's simple asynchronous replication between the 2 top sites and even down into that archive environment and the backup environment. But now you've got the performance at each site presenting out active stuff to each one at a price point that's really doable in an all-flash space while still having replication and being able to be live on multiple sites across an enterprise. So you're not limited to that niche use case anymore. You're not limited to only being able to deal with a very small set of storage that I need that high performance. Now I can get that with the combination with the Nexenta on top of the InfiniFlash to give that to the virtualization space, to give it to the application space. And even at times, because of the drop and that comparison you showed on the 10K drives versus the InfiniFlash even, sometimes for even into that backup space, if you need to access that, especially with compliance and things like that, get it quickly without having spinning disks that are failing all the time as well.
That's right. IDC even created a new term for this. They call it big data flash, and it's something that really does at these kinds of price points, the combination of software-defined storage and this class of product really does enable, if not the all-flash data center, then at least the mostly flash data center. And I think you've described a very good way of moving forward, of moving from disk to flash. That I think is really helpful. And I think you've got an offer also for the attendees on the webinar today.
Yeah, we're really glad, obviously, with having more people come on, and we take a little bit of people's time to watch these webinars. So one of the things as we worked together was really to promote something for everybody who's watching this today, to get a complete solution with the head nodes, those 2U servers we were talking about on the Supermicro head nodes, as well as the InfiniFlash chassis underneath, pre-configured, 256 terabytes for a solution that comes in at less than $1.60 a gig. When you add that in, that data reduction, so more the common number that people look at with data reduction in, looking at 50 cents a gig. That solution is available today through Supermicro and their partners to be able to do it. If anybody has any questions, they can simply email us at allflash@nexenta.com to get the information on it. And we'd love to be able to get this solution out for people to try it out. I mean, I think with that being said, I'm sure we probably have a few questions as we've gone through a lot in the last half hour or so. Maybe we've got a few questions coming in from the audience, it appears. So maybe we'll try to address a few of those.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Steve. One of the questions that came in is, can you tell me about some of your customers and why they went with this solution?
I mean, sure, we've got joint customers across the board on it, everything from some large broadcasting companies that are in the Americas to some data center providers on it. A lot of it was around being able to have that power and cooling reduction, have that lower cost for an all-flash solution. They needed something that could have more power, more performance than a traditional array without taking up the extra space in their data center. So those type customers, sometimes the service providers, the larger enterprises they're looking at, have really been a great fit already for the combined Nexenta SanDisk InfiniFlash solution.
Yeah, and I think just a prelude, I think next month we'll be doing another webinar with one of our customers, a cloud service provider. So look out for that.
Yeah, one of those ones I was mentioning for sure.
Yeah. Another question, why would I go with this versus a more traditional all-flash appliance that is out there?
I think a lot of it's about flexibility at this point. I mentioned that you're able to get many different vendors out there that they can choose from for the server side of things. The promotion we mentioned allows you to do it with Supermicro, but we've got other options on head nodes, whether you're looking for you're traditionally a Dell shop, you have that option. But also, it comes down to what's right for your enterprise. If you're looking at that reduction in power and cooling, you're going to get that out of this. There are other, obviously, all-flash solutions out there, none that give you that feature set and functionality that you're going to get across the board, the freedom of being able to know you've got a software package that will give you many different protocols, as well as that engineering that has been put behind the InfiniFlash that Steve touched on quite a bit about why we have that to give us more feature set.
Yeah, and to that point, another question is, and this is probably more for you, Steve, is what performance can one expect from InfiniFlash? And I don't know if we could even join it with another question, which is what's the performance on a 2 petabyte rack?
Sure. Actually, we're right in the middle of testing real life cases. So it's one thing to publish numbers. You know, we're talking about 780, close to a million IOPS at less than a millisecond of latency, which scales as per box almost linearly. But we are in the process of working with an Nexenta solution on performance testing in the real world. So as all of the folks on the line will understand, it's one thing to test in a lab with some benchmarks, but it's another thing to do real world testing. So we're in the middle of that right now. We will have that white paper out probably within the next month or so. So be happy to forward that along as soon as that's available.
Thank you. Another question is, why did SanDisk and Nexenta partner on this solution, and do I have the flexibility to change over time?
Oh, you definitely have that flexibility. I mean, whether it's different server head nodes that you're looking at, like I said, we've got options today on Supermicro, on Dell, on Cisco, quite a few different offers for an InfiniFlash solution that people can look at. The partnering on it, we've always had a strong relationship as partners. One of the benefits at being a software company is we spend a lot of time with the ecosystem partners. SanDisk has always been a good partner along the way with us. And while we're looking at a software approach that allows us to be leading the industry on things, the InfiniFlash really was that next step. It was the next piece of hardware that allowed the software to really drive. So it wasn't just about just having good relationships and good friends. It's the right product to give the right solution to the enterprises that they're looking for today.
Okay. Another question that came in, is that million IOPS number from adding all the IOPS of the hard drives together, or is it real world IOPS numbers?
So the raw performance of the box is at that level on all reads, and we can we have those numbers. Some of those numbers are published. Like I say, the real world numbers are coming and will be in the coming white paper.
Great, thank you. All right, well, that is all the time that we actually have for today. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. This webinar will be available on demand if you ever want to view back and listen to it. But thank you all for attending, and thank you, Michael and Steve. And until next time, have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thanks.